quick warm welcome to everybody. Thank you for taking time out to join us tonight. And thank you especially to Renso, who has, after a busy day, agreed to share some of his wisdom. He's gained a lot of knowledge over the last 20-something years that he's been with SciVision. First joined SciVision as an IT guy. He's still the IT guy, but he's got a wealth of knowledge when it comes to all things X-ray and digital, and he's certainly passionate about it. And he's been trained quite extensively all around the world, from USA to, where were you last, Renso? That beautiful, beautiful, beautiful city where you were last at. I was very jealous. Budapest. And hopefully going to Korea soon, which is very, very exciting. And maybe we'll have some doctors joining him there to the Vatech factory. But first of all, what's very exciting at the moment, before I hand you over to our expert for the evening, Renso, we want to say hi to Robbie at our SciVision Training Center, who's...
Hi Renso, and hello to all the doctors at home. I just want to introduce you to the new Vatech Green X. It looks so beautiful, but what's even better is the imaging it takes. This is Monica. I just want to set her up, take an X-ray.
The system is moving into capturing position. Please wait. The system is ready to capture an image. Please close your eyes until image capturing is complete. Image capturing is complete.
Wow, so quick.
Patient safety first with Green CT, providing safer, low radiation CT scans with the latest advances.
And doctors, that's it. Please come join us and have a look at the Green X here at SciVision Medical in Centurion. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Robert. Thanks, Lindy. Those words were unnecessary, but yes, I do enjoy what I do. And thank you, doctors, for joining tonight. And she said I had a busy day, but believe me, you guys had way, way, way more important, busy with all your patients. We actually just want to go through some of the machines today because, yes, I've been here for 20 years with the company, but the most part I enjoyed the most, apart from the gadgets, which I'm a gadget freak, is the journey I met with all these dentists, taking a part with them and growing and learning with them. And some of these dentists I've known for years and their families, etc. So we're growing and building together. But having said that, we always have doctors phoning us and to know what is the next thing in technology, whether we're talking about microscopes or when it's scanners, or when we're talking about different equipment like now and tonight, CBCTs and lasers. A lot of people want to buy it because their neighbors have it, or they want to hear that maybe that will be the next thing my practice needs. So the reason why we're doing this tonight is to show you some of the equipment we've got, but more than that, doctors would sometimes phone us and say, hi, I want to buy a machine. What's your field of view? And I think, doctor, is that how you buy a car when you walk into Volkswagen? I would like to know more or less, what is your needs? What do you want to do? What type of practice are you running? Then you sit down and discuss, excuse me, when you sit down and discuss the different needs, different protocols you would do with different machines. So yes, we've got quite a big stable of choices here. And tonight, I'll go through some of them with you. And of course, I want to make it interactive. If there's any questions, I'm very happy to do that. Okay, let me just start here quickly. Okay. At the end of 2018, we joined partnership with Vatech. We've been fortunate to work with different X-ray machines in the past. When I flew overseas and saw what these Vatech Korean company are doing, I got viciously excited. Because every rep sells the best thing in the world. Every machine there does the best X-rays, of course. Everyone says that, but I can assure you when I work with Vatech and I see what these Koreans are doing with their software, the AI development, the quality they do, the robust, and the way they give support, I said, Peter, I think this is the guys we should back. This is the lane we should do. As you know by now, we're very passionate. People who have dealt with us before know we're very passionate about education. And without going firstly, before I go further, I cannot stress enough this course we've got coming soon. Professor Dale Miles, this guy literally wrote a book on diagnosis. We've been trying now with this lovely COVID virus, sarcastically, we've tried now 3 times having him in our country, but every time it's been so limited, of course, of flights. Well, we're proud to say that he is coming now in Centurion and in Cape Town very soon. Look, the dates there, and more information will be on our website. We can send you links afterwards. Why it's so important is a lot of guys buy the CBCT units from wherever, and they spin that skull around and they don't know actually what they're looking for. This is going to be a phenomenal diagnostic course for 2 days, discussing things like field of view, the nuts and bolts of CBCT. How do you diagnose things like impacted tooth? What does this voxel word mean? They always talk about a 3D pixel. So this is really helping you in depth, whatever machine you've got, to really, really experience this quite a lot. Okay, so this, I can definitely not stress enough, will be a phenomenal investment in your growth for them. Well, a little side note, Vatech, of course, is not known just for the CBCTs we're doing tonight. It pairs like a good cheese and wine. It pairs beautifully with the sensors we do. We have got an Easy Sensor Classic, and we've got an HD one. You can even have enough sensors in your practice, eh? But we've got, as you can see, the line pairs are quite high, 29 pairs or 14. So we've got different sizes to help, and we're happy to demo that for you as well, or throw it in with your 3D machine. Last little quick reference on the side, we've got what they call our 2D machine with or without safe, called the PAX-I. Now, what I like about the Koreans, just like we do like a Hyundai and Kia car, they throw in all the bells and whistles. You don't have to do optional extras or add anything afterwards like licenses, that simple swear word. So our PAX-I pan machine has got all the basic programs you want and all the advanced programs all included, meaning you've got a normal pan, you've got your child pan, your bite wing, your TMJs, your lateral sinuses. So all of these, and your safe would be your waters, towns, APPA, all the safes you would want is all inclusive. We just recently now, a couple of months ago, launched our latest safe tracing software called Easy. What I love about this one, with our safe imaging, not only does it do your beautiful photo as superimposition on the software, like other ones we do, of course, but Vatech has got this word called Davis. That's their little AI clever behind the scenes. So Davis, for our 3D and our safe tracing, basically it takes all the landmarks, like 36 landmarks and your 7 outlines, and it will plot it for you, automatically find these points on a safe and do the automatic tracing, and afterwards just ask, are you happy? And you can verify. So this does the thinking for you, which is absolutely beautiful. And also do your smart procedure planning. So if you do your next planning phase, it will pick up all the x-rays or exposures you've done, photos, etc. So it's quite a beautiful program. Again, single license, no annual renewals on this, which is quite beautiful. And of course, you can do your 3D plotting and do 3D photos, beautiful for before and after communication. But that's not why you're here tonight. We want to talk about CBCTs and all these different models I said, as I mentioned, and different sizes you want. What is your requirements? Little tongue in cheek, this little photo here. We're always so used in all the years of pans, we have seen one angle. And you could see all the days, you would see beautiful endo case, beautiful result until you go 3D. But what if I turn this picture around? That's suddenly a whole different picture now. But that's usually what we always used to. We would try to do implant planning. We want to find a root canal, everything on a pan, and sometimes one 2D image will not give you the full picture. So we also came to a world where long time ago when CBCTs came into the dental field, people wanted to buy it just because they want to do implants or just maybe for endo, which is still true today, of course it is. But we found, I mean, one of the studies we've read now, almost 95% of all CBCT exposures has got secondary findings on them. So we actually moved to a point now, if you've got lower radiation type of dosages on the new CBCTs, you can literally take one every patient walking into the practice and really find what you actually didn't know would be there in the first place. How many cases do you see, or when people, specialists show the CBCTs, where normal good-looking pan would prove otherwise, when you see an impaction, an cyst, or something growth, where CBCTs just save your bacon there a little bit. Just a little teaser, we're going back to this now. The new machine we just launched in our showroom, waiting for you guys to play with it, is called the Green X. Yeah, that's just a quick little teaser, as they call it. The new machine we just launched, the Green X. I'll get back right to it now. I get a lot of questions for some dentists, and obviously a lot of patients, even more so, who want to know, but what dosage will I get it? Will I walk in there with a third tail when I walk out of the room? How much exposure am I getting? So when I explain to them on a CT versus CBCT, I suppose most of you guys would know this already, but we're talking about the dosage and the way that the cone beams work. So originally on your left-hand side is the fan base, as the medical CTs would do. It will circle completely every time over patient's face, as you can see in the top. Every little rotation around the patient's head will be an exposure. And like a little bread slice, it will just add them together at the end. But every time you go around the head, that will be a dosage. Where that little traffic cone shape, if you will, called cone beam, does much, much less rotation, and of course does way more exposure at one angle at a time. Okay, and that of course in the international world we're talking about the microsieverts. That USB logo there is how much sieverts am I exposing here. As you can see there now, as the cone moves around, you get quite a bigger volumes of every little slice to build up the ultimate model at the end. I try to break it down to patients because they sometimes think, if you're going to do 3D and I see my skull, am I really going to over radiate? And I tell them roughly that every patient, of every person, I mean, just for existing, walking around every day, looking at 2,400 microsieverts exposure. That's by things like gas from the ground, buildings, food you eat, cosmic, cell phones, flights, everything like that, just by living. So an average of 6.5 microsieverts a day you would get. If I bring it down to English to them, I would say a normal pan will be more or less the same exposure you would get by just doing a flight from Cape Town, Joburg. No one even thinks about that when you get into Kulula. You just get there, but that's the type of exposure looking at. A little bit further, if I want to fly to, let's say, Dubai or something for me, a 6-7 hours flight, that's the same as you would get an 8x8 CBCT. It's quite low dosage. Or different way of looking at it. If you're looking at a CBCT in the bottom right corner, you would see that's roughly almost a year's exposure you'll get in a proper big CT. Bringing it down to some average ones, this is not a new green technology, but some average CBCTs in the market, you're looking at about 200. So you can see it's quite a jump. You would go way down to go cone beam technology, to a pan and to a intraoral, as you can see, about 8. So one periapical is the same as just normal existing, if you would, radiation exposure. It's quite low. Again, the first thing I mentioned tonight is what field of view you had. Long time ago, when CBCTs more or less came out in dentistry field, you had this nice option of take it or leave it. You had a big one, but we know all the legality that people ask about. If I had this big cranial exposure and I have to diagnose legally something that I wasn't actually aiming for, missing, so people got scared to have this big exposure size. So whether you're a dentist doing specialist field or a specialist, we usually say, what is your interest that you want to do? So later on, they started bringing smaller little ones out, like the number C here, a little 5x5, a little small quadrant for just a single implant, or just one little place for endodontic, just one tooth. So different options started getting on the market. Very quickly, people realized if I only have a smaller one like this now, and I realized I want to do multiple implants, or I want to do general diagnosis, then this little 5 centimeter by 5 centimeter little cylinder would be too slow. Too small, I mean. So very quickly, the most popular one came, what they call 8x8 or 10x8, which is about a 3D pan, if you will. Gives them more popular ones for all the indications. So when I sit down usually with them, I say, let's go back to field of view. It's like walking into Macro, I suppose, and you see all the TVs there. You want a 50-inch or 40-inch. Before we go into the detail of that size, what do you want to see? So the market usually, if you have a small FOV machine, there's some on the field there nowadays who can only do a 5x5, but as I mentioned, endodontics, single implant planning, etc. Medium FOV, more popular size nowadays, it's 8x8x8. That obviously is for, as I said, general dentistry, multiple implants. You can do both jaws, but it will cut off just underneath the TMJs. If condyles and those type of things are your game, or airways, you want to go obviously a little bit bigger. A lot of these machines are in play now, a little bit more expensive, but I mean, if you do all the procedures, that's quite crucial, like a 15x15x15. So now we started getting into oral surgery, your pathology, if you want to start going into orthodontic surgery or stuff like that. Okay, so yeah, quickly is most of the base machines we do at the moment, currently of Vatech's range. The PAX-I, when I started, I showed you our 2D pan machine called the PAX-I. So when they just brought out one of the later models a couple of years ago, they had one called the PAX-I 3D. What original name, they just added those letters onto it. But what was a first for this machine is before this, years ago, if you had a pan unit and you want to take a CBCT, you had to unclick the pan sensor, click on the CBCT sensor, and then take that exposure. Quite an expensive smell you've got if that thing drops on the ground. So this was the first machine in the market in the world who had back-to-back a pan sensor on the one side and a 3D sensor on the other. So by just clicking the software, it will switch 180 to do whichever you need. And this machine you could and still can, though, we still sell these for 12x9 or 8x8, whatever. So you can have only an 8x8 machine for the pan size, or a little bit higher, 12x9. If you start looking at some TMJ work, you can buy this one. This is by far one of our most popular machines. We've got one in our showroom as well. So on that note, we're very serious about our showroom and people exposing it, because I do have a lot of dentists always say, yeah, Rep, you can show us your best x-rays on your laptop. But we are that cocky to say that if you want to see the quality, come take one. Come work with it. Come sit with the software with us and take an exposure on yourself or a family member or a patient and see the quality. Because you need to have peace with what you purchase. You need to understand this is going to be my investment for quite a couple of years. So this smart machine is in our practice, in our showroom there. And this is the first one. They had a little bit of a different design. What did they do differently? You can see the sensor here is a little bit flatter. There's a little bit flatter side there. And they put the 3D sensor and the pan sensor right next to each other instead of back to back. So when this machine goes around, it automatically takes a pan and a 3D at once. Same exposure time, same patient exposure time and waiting time. So immediately you've got a true pan, not a software representation, and a 3D, which is quite brilliant for verification, etc. It also has got obviously automatically the MAR metal artifact removal software built in. So it basically helps you with the little scatter. So it's not something you have to switch on and off. It's beautifully pre-designed every time you take it. Thirdly, it's the first time I've seen a machine that doesn't do the normal circular motion, if you would, like a cylinder, but it basically does almost like a horseshoe shape. What it means is usually we pay a little bit more for units that can do a 12x9. But this unit can go, instead of a normal 10x8, but it just cuts off before your wisdom tooth that's lying a little bit horizontal, this one will give you that extra 2 centimeters. It won't go as high as the TMJ, of course, but that beautiful Wizzies will fit beautifully in. So that's quite additional, you could almost say for free, 2 centimeters. That's quite a nice feature there. Then later, a couple of years ago later, we launched the new PAX-I 3D Green. So the 3D Green was, if I go back a couple of slides, this unit here, the original PAX-I 3D, they just said, you know what, with legality in the world for radiation levels dropping, they wanted to have a little bit of a sharper sensor and obviously a lower dosage. So when I showed you the slides in the beginning where the average would be for how much microsieverts you get an exposure, some previous technology would shoot from an 8x8 where you measure, but 180 to 240 microsieverts. They decided, you know, we can give it quite a nice, like a BMW with a new bonnet. They would give it a new facelift, new touch panel in the front, etc., new movable chin rest. But they added a lower quality, lower dosage sensor, and obviously a much sharper tube bed. So now we're doing exactly the same 12x9 size. You drop the microsieverts to rough down to about 80, 70 or 80 microsieverts. So it's quite a drop. And why that's such a nice thing, I mean, certain countries, the legislation is a bit different than ours, even more severe, but what makes it nice, if your sieverts are that low, it gives you the freedom to do the implant planning, do the CBCT, do your work, and quickly shoot another one just to verify what you've just done the work now, without being afraid, if I would say, cautious to take multiple exposures on a patient. So that's quite convenient. They brought our latest, the whole latest family. So PAX-I 3D is a couple of years ago. Again, for price reasons, that can still be obtained. But the latest family in the last, I would say, 2-3 years is called the Green 16 or the Green range. Complete new redesign from the factory, a whole new tube bed, whole new sensor. And now you get to certain things. Your green scan time has drastically improved, like 5.9 seconds to do a green CT exposure. You've got model scan built in, so which will come a bit later on the software, where for your superimposition to make your implant guides, you can still have the scanner. Intraoral scanners, don't get me wrong, is very, very, very important for if you want to do crowns and implant and those type of things, and temporary crowns, etc. But if you want to just have it for an implant guide, this model scans, microns are way more than enough. Okay, in these units, of course, a Green 16 can do a 16:9 for your apnea studies, your airways, right down to a 5:5 in 1 unit. We've got a big boy called the Green 21. That is obviously, we jokingly say that's our hairdryer. So if you do have people who want to go right up from a 21:19 down to an 8:8, that's quite a big machine. And then this one, a little teaser you saw right in the beginning, and that nice video from Robert and Monica there, the one in our showroom I said you can play with, is called the Green X. Why are we so proud of this machine? They built this on the backbone of the Green 16 unit, but they, for the first time now, really focused on the endo side of it. Why? Because nowadays the big world of arguments would be, or the competition, if you will, would be more or less on the how much voxels. That is, in macro, if you want to buy a 4K TV or the new 8K TV, as how voxels, how small can you get that numbers for more intense? So when you're looking at 8x8s or 10x8s, you would be looking at about a 0.2 micron. So that's more or less the going rate for these ones. But, and again, you'll learn way more than this when Dale Miles comes around, I can assure you. But if you're looking at the endo side, if you go down to a 5x5, you're looking about 0.08 or 0.07. That's the voxel. So the smaller the number is, the more intense, you'll have less noise, if you will, on that image. That does make a difference, of course. But then Vatech wanted to show, really, we want to play some serious game here, and they brought this one. It's the first one I've seen in the market, and currently only one, I suppose, where this one is a 5x5, but also a 4x4. So it's even a smaller little voxel, more focused on one little area. And in this little 4x4, we've got a 0.05 voxel. So for that, we brought in an additional software feature, which I'll come down to now, to do proper root canal planning. But what is nice about this machine, that is set up everything to throw bells and whistles. So you've got a machine that can do from a 4x4, 5x5, 8x8, right up to a 16:9. So it's the first time it, unfortunately, at the moment, cannot make coffee yet, but we'll work on that. So for now, you can do it right from airways, right down to a small endo planning. Literally one size fits all. So firstly, it does all the 4 different ones from you. You can do CEFs, or you can even make a virtual CEF, but for orthodontic reasons, of course, it will be a little bit smaller, but you can make virtual recon CEFs out of it. You can do your model scans, your PANS, and your CBCT. Then you've got, just briefly, quickly there, you can see you do your 4x4, as I mentioned. You can do an 8x8, 8x5, 8x9, I mean, 12x9 or 16. So you can literally go as far as doing a complete back area, the TMJ, surgical guides, etc., which is beautiful. Plus, with the new tube bed, we're doing a CBCT scan. That's why when you came into our waiting room today, the first video you saw was, what can you do in 3 seconds? That's how fast we do a CBCT scan now. About 2.9 seconds and you've got it. Which, depending on your computer, we're giving you quite a nice beast machine with it, of course. I think your reconstruction time can be like a minute and a half at most, depending on your network. So it's quite quick before you can start doing your planning. I mentioned before, your endo mode, 0.08, as I mentioned, is still quite a good voxel size to do a small little area. But going at an additional noise reduction to get a single canal or find that MB2 is quite, I say that could help quite a lot. Okay. So dental mode versus the endo mode, as we call it. If you only want to take a PAN and you don't want to do a CBCT, they even went a little bit further, and they went overkill. So there's a thing we called insight. What insight means If you ever played with this little 3D pictures, if you move it around, the image changes a little bit. I would jokingly call it like a half a 3D. What it means, sometimes if you take a beautiful pan, you will have a little bit of a shadowy or interproximal area on one side that you think, oh, it's beautiful, but at one part I would love to be a little bit different. So what the inside does, it actually takes 40 layers, one exposure, of course, one radiation around or rotation around, but it'll take 40 layers of pan. So once your pan has been taken, you can literally scroll your mouse and find in any area of your pan the most ideal exposure to get the ultimate pan. So you can play around till you get the best one you want. So that's also standard on the Green X. And of course, as I mentioned last time and before, you've got your model scan. You've got this little jig, modeling jig that you put onto the chin rest, and you put your models in there and scan, and then do your planning afterwards for your stent design, etc. So a little summary of the Green X unit. You can look in the beginning here. So even our smart machines, one of our popular ones, 18 seconds. It's still not long at all, right down to 2.9 seconds. You get the normal 0.08, which is the industry on standard on endodontics, and 0.2. And if you can go right in the back, you'll see our new Green X 0.05. I know before you start playing with these machines, of course, these are just numbers, but I can assure you, go try and do any machine, a root canal that small, and you'll start seeing what noise it makes a difference. Okay. So when you purchase the machine, of course, you get your software with it, and you get your 2D and your 3D licenses. So when you buy our smart unit or a Green, you get all the nice features like your normal NPR that needs no introduction. Your sectional tool, you're going to take your bread knife and literally just cut slice by slice anywhere in the mouth and the interval thickness you want. So some people love working in the NPR function to see your, as they call it, your actual up and down slice, your mesial distal one, or your ear to ear selection, as I mentioned. We've got a feature called 3D pan, which is almost a very, it's an interesting, unique way of Vatech to work with the 3Ds as well. It's a nicer way to explain to a patient more or less on a 3D level, because I understand pans, if you know what I mean. It's an easy way to explain the work you're about to do. You've got your TMJ function. You literally look at your condyles and do your individual slicing for them. And you've got a beautiful built-in consultation video library. Patient, I'm about to do periodontic work, I'm about to do an implant. What on earth does that mean, doctor? So you can scan on the left-hand side and put in your x-rays you've just taken, 2D or 3D. And you've got a built-in library of perio, ortho, pedo, all this type of different videos. And you can obviously add your own, build your own library also in the software, which is quite nice. And then when you buy the Green family machines, you get an additional one. I mentioned when I showed in the beginning of that easy ortho tracing software, we've got a little AI clever little man there called Davis. So Davis also in the CBCT, what it does, after you've done your scan, it automatically finds the maxilla, mandible, and all the teeth structures. So you can now, for instance, do a single extraction. If you want to do an immediate placement, as an example, you can now virtually extract the 1.4 or 1.5 and place the implant immediately in there. So you can literally play around. You've got orthodontic surgery software building now on the bigger machines. So you can literally do your planning before and after, do your superimposition, show them, and you can add your 3D photos of you and do a superimposition there as well to show the patient before and after surgery how would the movement work, which is quite brilliant. Okay, so this is just a little video quickly to show you how the new, when you buy the Green X, this license is just beautifully Green X minute machine. That's quite beautiful. guess is so old news, eh? Why do you want to guess and wonder? So that is the exciting feature called the Endo function in the Green X unit, where you can take all the bone segmentation away and virtually, as I mentioned, extract the tooth and do your and find that hidden mysterious fourth canal and really do your 3D planning on it. Okay, so that's the PowerPoint board. I just want to show you some of the software quickly, yeah? But before I go further on the software, I'm based obviously in Cape Town, but we've got a Joburg showroom office, which I've mentioned twice. I'm very happy we can answer some questions now, but I'm very happy and honored to spend any one of you guys, if you want to have more questions, sit with the software and I can do a team viewer, you know the word, take over, you can see my computer and we can do some software design together. Because you really, I need you to understand that when you buy this unit, you need to have this computer, this software running in full capacity. A lot of people buy these machines and they only take the X-ray and save it, takes the X-ray and save it. But there's so many tools on your fingertip that you can really, really fully diagnose and fully plan and fully fly with this. We shouldn't sit there for 10 minutes and praying to find the implant or find that little canal. It should be something that's so easy to use and something to do your work much quicker. Okay, so let me just quickly go to the software here. As you can see here now, you've got your 2D software called EZNI, where I preload all my X-rays and my software, my database for intraoral scans, photos, etc. And in this, we've got our 3D software called, as I mentioned, Easy 3DI, with all different ones in there. So you've got your segmentation already loaded. As you can see, I can now from here go, if I go to this function in PR, and I can go as easy as click on extract tooth, and let's say, let's extract the 4-5, just relevant. Luckily, you guys are much cleverer than I am. I can know the software, but clinically, I'm not even in your shadow, so you guys can do much better. I'm probably going to put the implant into long, but you can see what I'm doing here now. Let me just switch it off quickly. You can move your slices around. If I want to go to that area there, but it's beautiful. You can just turn your angulation, how the 3D looks like. That's just one example. How would you do an area of a nerve canal drawing? So you can quickly draw your nerve. And as mentioned, you guys will do it much easier than I would to find the canal. Okay, this one I don't find so easy. If you have your argumentative sake, you've got your nerve canal drawing, and you can go to insert your implant. We said we took the 4-5 out now, right? So what you do have on here in our implant software, we've got all our implant libraries loaded. You can see here on company called user, and there's quite an extensive library built in for you. All the famous ones, Ankylos, Megagens, Southern Biohorizons, or you can see there's got different ones in here. If for some reason there would be an implant library that you guys have, some Italian company you like, if we don't have, just put us in hold of the rep or the factory itself, and we can find all the values of those implant libraries, and we can have it preloaded in an update. Okay, so all the ones we use the most would be in here. You can also now set, if I go to Southern, for instance, if I go to TC Taper for that matter, if I, for instance, always love to use my posterior work as Southern, I can say set as default, because some of you would use different anterior implant choices versus certain ones in premolar, etc. So you can save as is. So if I wanted that one, for instance, and I would guess that's about 8-9 millimeters, just click, and place the implant. Completely skewed, of course. Okay, but what I want to show you quickly, I've had a question somewhere. If I go to impression, in our software now, I'm going to show this patient case, for instance, here. One of the most questions I get, apart from the obvious field of view and voxel, is can I make implant guides? Can I make STLs? there's so many abundance of options out there for how do you pay annually, do you pay per scan? And as I told you, the Koreans like to throw everything with, it's your program, you should own it. So your models and your DICOMs are all stored in one. So just on a side note, when you talk about x-rays in the world, they always talk about DICOM files. So where they send it to a specialist or a lab, or I would send it to the hospital, they always want to talk about DICOMs. That's the extension my x-rays must be saved in. When we talk about models, of course, and we talk about STLs. So when you want to send this to a lab to make a 3D print for you, or do a model guide, or you want to send it to your own 3D printer, they always want an STL. And some machines might be limited doing this, but I can show you now. So whether you're using our green technologies model scan built into the unit, where you've got your own intraoral scanner and you want to import it, so all you do is you import it or scan directly, and you've got your model case. You've got your obviously your CBCT here. It's amazing how quick you start flying with this if you do this on a regular basis. Now let's say for argumentative sake, now it picked up, now I've got a CBCT and I've got an attached model for this. So let's say I'm going to activate it. Okay, so funny enough, it went completely the wrong way around. So you can obviously move this model now. And believe me, the more you do it, the quicker you'll get. So you can move around, but you wanted to fine tune this. So if we quickly go around, move around there, and just find your 3 little plot points. So if I go to posterior, let's go with that tooth maybe from there, and go around. Let's say, well, that should be the better point, but done. Now it's obviously attaching these two and superimpositioning them together. Oh, I must talk slow and do it quicker. Okay, but let's say that one is fine now. I can lock it now in place, and I can just quickly hide it. So what I can do now is, if I would put 2 implants in there, I can, for instance, say on the 1-1, you can do a measurement there as well. Let's choose ankylos, for instance. If all you guys are mics on, you guys would scream, no, not that one. You click on guide, you add your path onto this, insert. Okay, so that is just for the time, parents, let's pretend that's going to be the right one. Put your model back. So now when I go here and I say export, will be exporting the whole 3D X-ray case if people want to see the X-ray. But if you want to send this as an STL, you would choose here export surface model. And I would say, take the CT away, give me the model with the implant guide. And that would be sent then. Press OK. Save your file name, and you just attached it. We transfer Dropbox Cloud and send this to your lab, or your own 3D printer, which we supply as well, to make the implant guides from there. Okay, and a little other example, and then I would, for the last 5 minutes, if there's any other question. There's so many more features. I just want to highlight certain ones that you know that this is going to be the this can be the type of the tools you can use for everyday work, general diagnostics. You can't just do this for implants, which of course is the main thing you want to do, probably. There's a button, for instance, here, measure airway, if that's your request. So all you do in airway is easy as click on the top, click on the bottom. And as you can clearly see, airway is already measured for you with the volumetric diameters, and do your sleep apnea planning from there. Okay, is there any questions so far? Sorry, I'm going quick.
Yes, Renzo, you've got some questions.
Okay.
First question is, can a CBCT be placed in the treatment room or in a separate space with brick walls?
That's an interesting question. I would love to speak to some of the doctors directly asking it. In certain countries, it's quite compulsory. You must have it in a beryllium painted wall, lead covered. It's actually separate. But in our country, they do come test the radiation if there's no scatter, if it's in a controlled area. So it does get approved if you have it in a room with the chair and on one side. We can get it approved, but that's a question I can obviously verify with Jane and with you. However, I would recommend having it in a separate room, if space allows, of course. It's easier for patient positioning, and it's easier if you've got multiple chairs, you don't obstruct anyone else. But yeah, so ideally it should be in a separate room, but that's a genuine question we can confirm. In other countries, it's compulsory, cannot be in the same treatment room, but it does get passed.
Yeah, I've seen some of our newer machines being very green in quite cool spaces. Some of the practices are quite open plan. So it was
the biggest reason why, the biggest reason why people are asking also, I suppose, is because of the footprint of the size of the unit. Some of these machines are quite bulky. It looks like you want to put a truck in there. But you can see the dimensions of our ones, they are severely quite small. So it's quite a compact footprint we can see. You can also put in a room where there's drywall, provided we've got a foot stand. We can put in a very heavy cast iron foot stand. So we'd love to do the site inspection and guide how we can help you.
I suppose it's as long as the patient's the only one in the room, although.
Yes, but again, as mentioned before, Lindy, I would definitely ask the radiation and qualification people, Jane Dent. I do see that they, depending on the room itself and etc. As you said, the flow of patients, it does get passed as long as the machine gets approved by the KV, the MA, it exposes, there's no scatter, it does the dosage it's supposed to do, it does get approved, yeah.
The units are so pretty, so I would hate to put it in a small room. Does 75 micron and 87 micron vocal make a difference?
It really does on a small little one, and a small little field of view. As I said in the beginning now when you usually do the 8x8s and the 10x8s, most of the machines out there are either 0.2 voxel, which is a bit higher than this question has been asked, versus a 0.3. But when you go down to 5x5, it starts making a difference. So on average, 0.8 is the average ones in the market for root canals, or for 5x5, so sorry. Or some of them might have a 0.0 or 0.7. To be exact, they call it 0.75, but let's just round off. So our Green 16, our Green 18, our smart units, all of them do still a very beautiful 5x5 on a 0.8. Apart from the only one, as I said, the Green X unit is the only one we've done now. And I haven't seen any other machine yet, maybe you guys can correct me, that does a 0.5. So it's quite low. So yes, it does make a difference. It's like when you do, when you take an high image photo with your cell phone or with a Canon DSLR, when you start zooming in, you can see the pixelation starts happening up. So the lesser that number is, the more intense that little area would be.
We've got another question. Single? Renzo, someone wants to know if he's single. Funny. You have a question for you?
We've got another question from Dr. Bernadette Pinar. She asks, does soft tissue inside of cheeks contribute to scatter? Must one use retractors?
No, I have not heard a case, Doctor, where someone used retractors on these ones. Scatter is more or less obviously linked to implants or some heavy presence of metal, or some old amalgams, maybe some ortho work where the metal would do that, some that scatter. And that's why the competitions always be, they call it the MAR, the metal artifact removal, where they work on different machines. Who can do the best scatter removal? But as far as I understand, the soft tissue is not that big factor because of the density of bone and density of soft tissue. That can be quite a difference. No, I don't think that would be a problem. Apart from obviously positioning, some people, it looks like they take a run start going to the machine. Suddenly, if the position is a little bit forward or back, you'll get a bit of a bad imaging. So that can be a factor more than the soft tissue present.
Okay, and then
Oh, hey.
final question from Dr. Renso is she wants to know an example of implant planning using CBCT, how to position the implant during planning stages using CBCT.
Well, I just briefly showed, but it's very crucial, obviously, if you, am I still shared there, Lindy?
Yes, you are.
Okay. But it's very crucial that you see the beginning, I'm not going to do a full implant case here now, but the first, when I've seen a lot of dentists for the first time, when I see 3D in front of them, they really feel it's like, oh my soul, I'm landing a plane at the airport now. It's so many things to look at because you used to have a 2D plane, just a pan in front of you. But when you get used to this screen here, called the MPR, where you start the positioning over the area, which is nice about this one here, you can just take the airway out of the way. So if you have a certain area, you can just double click on there. And I think this again, I'm sorry I mentioned like 3 times before already, the Dale Miles course, but this is where we're going to tell people how do you fly from 3 different angles, looking at a certain area. On 3D, there's no way only the one angle will give you the proper information. You need to know, how do I look actually down to it? How do I look now from mesial distal? And how do I look from the side, of course, and get a proper implant? So you get your site where you want to see, is there bone, etc. You've got your favorite one. So of course, in the bottom, you want to do your nerve canal drawing. So the software will give you a collision warning that if you place implant too low, it will give you a red alarm. You're touching the nerve. Where that obviously in a bigger area, the sinus region, you can do your measurements, get your implant placed. Okay, so it's quite click, measure, and as I said, planting there. You just choose your tooth, choose your implant you would like, and bob's your aunt. Okay, so but again, as I mentioned before, it's sometimes overwhelming for people who've bought the CBCT for the first time. And you don't want to buy this because your neighbor's got one. You don't want to buy this because it's just the next step. You want to buy this because you're sick and tired of guessing and hoping that that implant is fine. Sometimes when you open an endo, you realize, oh, there's a 3rd canal, or a 4th, I mean. So I need people to understand, if you get a CBCT, it must improve your, not only implants and endos, of course, but it must improve your general dentistry and your general diagnosis. And for that, you need different angles. You need different software manipulations. You need the consult videos to sit with the patients. I'm about to do this root canal planning, or need to do this periodontic issue. Look in the back here. And with the photos and animation videos, they really get what you're trying to do. It also has got a built-in reporting tool, because that's quite an irritating thing always when you have to export all your x-rays and your cases, and you have to put it into Word or Outlook, etc. So we've got built into our software. I can help you set up your own templates that you want to put in there. So you can literally drag your images in here, insert an image box. I want to capture a region. I say, listen, for some reason, for lack of a better time now, I just want to see that little part there. And it's all real time, your report in the back, by just dragging and dropping a certain part, adding my text box any way you want to. You can just do whatever you want, etc. So you can make your own templates in your body. You can see our logos in the top there. You can make it for your own things there as well. And then afterwards, you can, oopsie. Okay, I don't know how to, okay, but no, the Zoom button is now in its way. I can't see the buttons on the top there. But if you export now, we've got the email functionality built into our software. So you don't have to export it anymore. You can, of course, export your PDF and all your images and all your reports into a PDF and give it on a stick, or you just mail it straight out of our program to your receiving end. Okay, so one size fits all program. But thank you for your guys' time. I really appreciate it. And as I said, there's quite a lot to take in. And it's also the biggest thing in life. You must have peace with your decision. You must have peace to say, this machine will help my practice. So for from 8x8 or 10x8. If the smart machine is your machine, I'm happy to help you. If you want to go more into implants and endos for that matter, definitely give this Green X a shot. And we've got a good promotion of those machines. They are brand new in the market. We'd like to help you there. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Renzo. Thank you everyone for joining us. We see all of our lovely clients. Hello to everyone. You're all invited to our showroom. Please come and take a CBCT of yourself, or maybe send your patients. Maybe you've got a patient who maybe can't even afford a CBCT. You're welcome to use it as an opportunity to use our training center for that. I've put in the chat our links to our website for our events. If you want to see more about the Dale Miles course, those dates are in August, and yeah, it's pretty much full, but there are some people who are since booking for last year. They're having babies or immigrating, so you might be able to still get a seat. So just visit our webpage, scivisionmedical.com/events, and Dale Miles will be in Johannesburg at our Centurion Training Center on the 13th and 14th of August. That is a Saturday and a Sunday, so you don't have to miss work. And in Cape Town on the 20th and the 21st of August in Bantry Bay. You want to be there, trust me. He's really, hey, he's such an entertaining guy. I would hate for you to miss it. So please join us if you can get a seat. And our sensors are on special, so the sensible thing to do is to get an easy sensor, and it's better to buy them in two. So even if you want to buy one with a friend, there's a big saving if you buy them in two. That's a great offer we've got from Vatech direct. So visit our website, and if you've got any questions, just email us. Thank you for watching and have a wonderful evening. Good night.